Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. Now, I'm an economist who believes that economies should be designed around what improves the citizens' standard of living the highest, and I mean all citizens, not just the rich. This is not the same as capitalism rhetoric of placing a price tag and consuming every single resource on the planet. Standard of living also means clean drinking water and fresh air, along with forests, lakes, and nature. It's not simply consume, consume, consume. I'm not a huge fan of that element of capitalism, or the cheap plastic stuff that comes out of China with short product lives, only to be disposed of and replaced. In fact, I really resent it. Just cheap things that are marketed to you that will likely bring you no joy shortly after the purchase. A total waste of resources. Standard of living means having a better life, not owning more things. It is, however, the free markets that do that the most. Just look at some recent things we've gained through free markets. A phone that can tell us anything we want to know in an instant from anywhere, and being able to communicate with anyone we know through multiple forms. We have a library of movies to watch that would have previously cost over $100,000 to buy on DVD. Did you ever meet someone with a $100,000 DVD collection? We have the ability to talk to anyone in the world for free via video. And of course, we also have just about all music ever made ready to play on the go, anywhere we are, just to name a few inventions of recent. Then we have ride-sharing services that have now given us the luxury of having our own chauffeur to drive us where we want, when we want, and arrive in minutes. And then Tesla take that to the next level. Tesla turn our own cars into chauffeur-driven vehicles, or at least when FSD is feature complete. This would have likely cost $50,000 to $100,000 a year or so in most developed nations, yet now it's a one-off cost for just $12,000. This is what free markets have done for society. They've made luxuries that only the rich could previously afford affordable to the masses. And this is what I mean by improving standard of living for everyone. It means we can all live like kings, literally, except from 100 years ago or so. Granted, currently most likely in a smaller residence. And what industry is doing the most to improve standard of living at the moment? Technology. And people and investors are realizing that technology is going to lead the way in improving standard of living and making luxuries more affordable. Technology will lead the way as it generates the most leverage. The fact a movie can be streamed to millions of viewers rather than having to consume 1 million copies of DVDs for each of them to watch. Technology creates abundance. And now, thanks to Tesla, more people are able to afford a very luxury item, a long-range electric car. And before long, the masses, at least in developed nations, will be able to afford a brand new electric self-driving vehicle. And in less developed nations, they will eventually have robotaxis, which is an enormous jump from their previous transport. That's right, as for that Tesla is not a car company cliche, that element of the business is transport anyway, not car sales. First principles thinking, remember, getting people or items from one destination to another. That is what Tesla's car business actually is. How can this be done cheaper, faster, safer, more comfortable, and of course better for the environment? If you want to know what Tesla's auto business is all about, it stems from this. If you want to know where the future of it will go, then think along these lines. Automobile manufacturing is a $3 trillion industry, which could essentially be viewed as a ceiling for Tesla's value, if that was the industry Tesla was in. But if you think of Tesla as a transport company, well, you can include the oil and gas industry at nearly $5 trillion too. Okay, sure, not all of that is used for gasoline, so likely just a fraction of that. But a Tesla comes with cheaper energy recharging than an ICE vehicle. Some of those savings will go into the EV industry itself, as consumers are willing to spend more on an EV than an ICE due to the lower running cost, among other reasons. But the transport industry doesn't stop at vehicles and fuel. We have drivers too. Labor is the highest cost. Tesla fully integrate everything, the vehicle, the fuel, and the driver. The one thing missing that they don't own or control are the roads. I'm not a big fan of Elon's businesses all merging like people talk about into one company called X, but I wouldn't object to Tesla owning the Boring Company. The thing is, all these elements from various industries consolidated by Tesla is being achieved with enormous profit margins, thus making said industries more profitable and growing them. The EV industry is going to be a lot bigger than the ICE industry, and when you include AVs too, it's going to be enormous. It's the technology transport industry. There is just so much value added to this company in so many ways. Like I was saying, how consumers have all the movies and music in the world, yet they only have to pay the cost of buying one CD a month to have all the CDs. Now, most people were probably not buying a new CD every month anyway, therefore the music industry got bigger, as consumers are willing to spend more on products that give them more. Previously, perhaps the average consumer only bought 5 CDs a year. Now they're paying the equivalent of around 12 CDs. The music industry is bigger as more people are paying for music. There is more profit as no CDs need to be manufactured anymore, and we have just about eliminated all CD stores. Everyone wins. Well, everyone except the CD retailers, but that's creative destruction. Small industries die to make room for gigantic ones. I can't recall what Blockbuster's valuation was at its peak. I think it might have been somewhere around $5 to $10 billion. Compare that to Netflix, that has now had a high of over $250 billion. Technology creates abundance. Consumers are willing to pay more for abundance, along with the creative destruction element, which governments can often hold back with regulation, for whatever reason they may choose, whether it's to save jobs, save companies, national security, but too often cronyism. And I'm sure you can probably throw in a bit of nepotism too. The more an industry is regulated, the slower it can grow. Technology is the least regulated industry. Creative destruction destroys jobs, but creates abundance. When the dust settles and people change careers, then we end up with a higher standard of living, and very often more jobs than before. Look how many jobs the internet created, but we lost CD and DVD stores and rental, phone books, bookstores, landlines, and a lot of other retail stores. But look at the world we have now. Although I'm a huge advocate of free markets, I'm not an extreme anarcho-capitalist, or ANCAP. I can't quite get there. I think we do need government still, but like Milton Friedman said, when government, in pursuit of good intentions, tries to rearrange the economy, legislate morality, or help special interests, the costs come in inefficiency, lack of motivation, and loss of freedom. Government should be a referee, not an active player. I think I am a fan of the neoliberalism movement we saw in the early 80s. It seems like a good balance of government and business, but I am objective in economics as well. I try to read about one economics book a week and try and work out what system would be best for my initial first principles objective of a higher standard of living for everyone. I don't try and reinforce biases on capitalism or socialism. I'm continually evolving my thoughts on economics and thinking them through, just like how I try and think through how the EV and auto industry will turn out, and I'm happy to entertain any ideas on what can happen, rather than simply having a narrative of Tesla will win, everyone else will lose, and trying to reinforce that. And now, thanks to Tesla, I have a car that will drag off most Ferraris and Lamborghinis that will eventually have a built-in chauffeur. You've had to be very rich in the past to have this standard of living. But what will Tesla do with other products in the future that will add to our standard of living? Well, no joke, I could actually write a book on that. Just think what happens when you start reducing the cost of energy. Think how much impact oil prices rising has on the economy. Well, look how much cheaper it is to use electric than gas already. About 1/5 the price, or virtually free when accompanied by solar. Right, first principles thinking. What are the costs of owning a car? Well, the fuel, Tesla fixed that. Then the time of driving. Remove those elements and you have the ability to make the lowest cost form of transport. Of course, do everything you can with technology, manufacturing and vertical integration to make the car for as low cost as possible too. Anyway, that's my view as an economist and one of the reasons I love Tesla so much, and the way this company operates, and how it can potentially transform our standard of living to such a level we never imagined. It keeps me passionate. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.